We've got to you eventually. Robin McAlpine.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a really important thing here, which is everyone keeps talking as if Brexit is some sort of aberration. And this, I think, is a mistake. This is where I think we're not getting this right. Brexit is where, I'm going to be very careful with the language, Brexit is where English politics has been going for a while. It had, that kind of xenophobic, right-wing, anti-European, it's partly to do with a more affluent group in the south who are feeling, I think, frankly, challenged by multiculturalism, and another group who are not affluent in the north who are being challenged by the weak economics of Britain. Now, this isn't really happening in Wales and Northern Ireland and Scotland. It is very much an English issue.
Well, 1 million Scots voted for Brexit.
They did, but what I'm trying to say here very carefully is the politics of the debate is different. If you ask people, do you think the European Union is great? Quite a lot of Scots will say, well, no, we don't. It's not a brilliant institution. But it hasn't been a driving factor in Scottish politics. There are no anti-immigration parties that get any votes in Scotland. There are no xenophobic parties generally which get any votes in Scotland. Now, what I think is really important here is not what's happening at this very second, but what's happening underneath. I think in 2014, the independence debate became about the directions of two countries. Scotland becoming a bit more Nordic, more progressive, less centralised, all these kind of things. And Britain continuing to be this country which has been drifting to the right. And I think Brexit is a symptom of that. And one of the things which I think is really important is this strange idea that if somehow we just cancelled Brexit, that politics would disappear, that it's gone. That problem in England isn't there anymore. That problem is there. England has this divisive, complex debate with itself, and my problem is that putting Brexit away is not going to change that, and Scotland is going to be continued to be dragged around by this, frankly, quite toxic debate in some ways that's happening in England. And when people say, let's get back to the day job, what? Of pleasing the Daily Mail in Westminster? Of showing all these little signals to try and win marginal seats? That actually we are showing hostile environment to immigrants? All these kind of things. See, that has become business as usual in British politics. And I would strongly argue that that doesn't exist in Scottish politics in the same way. So what I think the real answer to this is, even if there was a short-term deal in Brexit, even if we don't get a referendum in the next 2 years, just a little bit under the surface, what we are seeing is a more fundamental divergence of the hopes and aspirations that the people of Scotland have for their future and what is happening in England. And I would emphasise, of course, there are many people in England who share the kind of vision of the future that Scotland's got, but they are not dominant just now. The people who are dominant are the ones who are pulling the whole country away from that kind of future. I think fundamentally, whether it's 2 years, whether it's 5 years, whether it's a decade, it is that political dynamic which is going to pull the Union apart. And ironically, it's not Scotland which is leaving the UK. It's England which is leaving the post-war British constitutional settlement of a welfare state, of from cradle to grave, of being a country that's welcoming to others. We are still holding that ideal, and England, and large parts of it, are moving away. And that is the tension which I think will fundamentally change Britain.
Donald Cameron, come back.